I wouldn't rule it out.
Yeah, he got the ability. Good to see Dixon. It's really nice of him to come up here. And I think in a lot of ways he was thanking you for giving him an opportunity that a lot of people
well, you're right. A lot of people don't want to give fighters with those kind of records the opportunities. Dixon, always welcome here in Rhode Island. Comes to fight, and, hey, he comes to spoil the party, and he did that tonight. Now, in our main event, can Steve Vukosa spoil the party for Giuseppe Cusumano? Cusumano comes in fighting out of Carini, Sicily, lives in Danville, Virginia, but he's become a staple here in Rhode Island as one of the biggest, hardest-hitting heavyweights in quite some time who've come out of the state, and he's really made a round his second home. This, more or less, is his home crowd that he fights in front of, so you're going to see what that's all about tonight. Steve Vukosa, who we're about to see get in the ring, 42 years of age, however, has had 2 separate long layoffs. He jumps back in here tonight for just the second time in 5 years. He ended a 5-year layoff in July, got a big victory out in New Hampshire, and now he comes in here in a title bout. This one's going to be interesting. Vukosa, for the longest time, trained out in California with Freddie Roach at Wildcard Boxing.
Freddie Roach, yeah.
Freddie Roach had a knee injury that derailed his career early. He forced himself into retirement, then came back 12 years later, almost off the couch from a 12-year layoff, and he beat Jason Estrada, the former Olympian in Massachusetts, one of the big upsets in New England in quite a few years.
To be pretty positive thing, huh?
About to have our national anthem with the lovely Christina Case, so we're going to send it down ringside and rejoin you in just a moment.
Fight fans, it is the moment you've been waiting for. It is time for your main event. 8 rounds for the vacant WBC USA NBC heavyweight title. Let's welcome our first fighter to the ring. Ladies and gentlemen, Steve Vukosa.
And here is the challenger, Steve Vukosa, fighting out of Quincy, Massachusetts, 42 years of age. Just came back to the ring from a 5-year layoff and scored a big win over Justin Rolfe in New Hampshire. And now he takes on the Sicilian Nightmare, Giuseppe Cusumano. They call Vukosa the Gentle Giant. But I'll tell you, that's a look of determination that I see on his face as he walks into the ring tonight with his trainer and cornerman, Chris Trieti, himself a very accomplished pro boxer. So he's got a very wise, intelligent corner by his side tonight, taking on quite a challenge. But the Gentle Giant standing in at 6'4", about to get in there with the man himself, Giuseppe Cusumano.
His opponent coming to the ring, Giuseppe Angelo Cusumano.
I'll tell you what, Doc, Giuseppe Cusumano comes in as hot as you can be. He's won 16 out of 17 fights.
That's hot.
That's hot. He had a 13-fight win streak before that. It was snapped at a show in Connecticut last summer. A very unexpected, kind of a tough loss. Cusumano in there against a shorter opponent who mastered the art of getting in that 1 or 2 shots and then keeping his distance. And Cusumano just really couldn't solve the riddle over the course of those 6 rounds. But he learned from it. He's come back stronger. He actually fought a similar opponent, similar in height in February, and scored a 7th-round knockout in that fight. So we saw the progression of Cusumano learning from his mistakes last summer to come back in February and get the big win against a guy who had the height disadvantage and who can sometimes give problems to the taller fighters. But tonight, he takes on the Gentle Giant, Steve Vukosa, who stands at the same height, 6'4". These two will be eye level throughout the night for as long as this fight lasts. That's the kind of fight that Cusumano likes and has asked for, and he's going to get it tonight.
So, the loss was a lesson learned.
Absolutely.
And you saw that in the frustration by him going back and fighting the same type of fighter. And you need those things. Marion Boykin, working on boxing, gives boxing show, the test of an outstanding fighter. What do you do after you lose? What do you do when you get knocked down on the canvas? Ray Robinson, when he won the welterweight championship, was a split decision over Tommy Bell, who was the uncle of the leader of the Kool and Gang. But Ray got up off the canvas, won a split decision. That's the greatness. What do you do after you lose? Ali Frazier won. Joe Frazier said, I know he doesn't want to fight me again. And Ali said, oh, how wrong he is.
Cusumano finally making his long-awaited entrance to the ring with promoter Jimmy Birchfield Sr. Cusumano captured the NBA heavyweight title in February. It's kind of the rebranded NBA title. If you remember back in the earlier times, before any of the sanctioning bodies were around, the NBA title was the title.
Oh boy, little lesson there, Mike.
That's
Mike
right,
there, baby. Little lesson.
I come with some history as well. So, and they've rebranded it now. The NBA is back in effect, and Giuseppe Cusumano won that in February with a knockout win over Brendan Barrett. And here he is tonight. This one's going to be interesting. I can't wait to see how this one unfolds. We're going to send it to Adam Palazzo for the introduction.
All please rise. Gentlemen, please remove your caps. Here to present our colors, the U.S. Marine National Color Guard. And here to sing our nation's anthem, Miss Christine Case.
Been a pleasure, man.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleam, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight for the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the hope of the brave.
Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Christine Case and the U.S. Marine National Color Guard. This event is sanctioned by the Rhode Island Department of Business Regulation, Division of Gaming and Athletics Licensing. Elizabeth Tanner, Director. Pamela Toro, Associate Director. Christina Tobias, Gaming and Athletics Administrator. The Honorable Peter Timothy, Gaming and Athletics. Your referees tonight have been Michael Ortega and Eddie Claudio. Your judges, Steve Smolder, Martha Tremblay, Eddie Scunzio, and Robert Paolino. Your physicians ringside are Dr. Peter de Blasio and Michael Ray. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your main event. 8 rounds for the vacant WBC USA NBC heavyweight title. Here to officiate, Mr. Michael George from the WBC. This bout is brought to you by Duff's Electric and Coast Realty. Tonight's fights have been brought to you by Lock 50 Restaurant, Wine and Bar and Russo Italian Restaurant in Worcester, Mass. Introducing first, fighting out of the blue corner, wearing the purple and yellow trunks. He weighed in at 244 pounds. His pro record, 10 wins, 1 loss, with 4 big victories by way of knockout. Hailing from Quincy, Massachusetts, Twin River Casino, the Gentle Giant, Steve Vukosa.
28.
And his opponent, fighting out of the red corner, wearing the black and gold trunks. He weighed in at 241 pounds. His pro record, 18 wins, 2 losses, with 16 big victories by way of knockout. He's the current NBA heavyweight champion. Hailing from Carini, Sicily, ladies and gentlemen, the Sicilian Nightmare, Giuseppe Angelo Cusumano. Your referee and the man in charge of the action is Mr. Eddie Claudio.
Doc, there's one thing you can say in the heavyweight division. You cannot underestimate the underdog. I think Andy Ruiz Jr. taught us all a lesson earlier this year. Never take anybody lightly, no matter what they look like or what the records might suggest. So Steve Vukosa comes in tonight. He's 42 years of age. He's fought once in 5 years, but the heavyweight division's been ripe for upsets this year. Anything can happen. It's a wide-open division, and I think all the fighters who compete at heavyweight know that, and it's really driven these fighters to, I think, chase that goal again. The Klitschko's are out of the picture now. The belts aren't wrapped up or tied up in the Ukraine anymore, right? I mean, it's open now as it's ever been, and fighters like Vukosa and Cusumano can get their chance. Now you see Cusumano in the black and gold tonight here in our main event. Vukosa in the purple and gold. And one of the descriptions that I always get of Steve Vukosa, the Gentle Giant, is that he's a slick southpaw. We're going to see how slick he is. Head movement, footwork's always been a part of his game. But over time, as years go by, some of those skills do erode a bit and you slow down a bit. So that could be a factor. We'll see if that speed and that head movement is still there as it once was 4 or 5 years ago when Vukosa was really more so in his prime, as some would say.
Oh, no question about it. I mean, but, you know, slick always goes with a southpaw. You ain't a southpaw if you ain't slick. That just goes with it. But he's 10-1. I mean, let's not dismiss that. There's a puncher's chance always. Anything can happen. I've said it in my synopsis. Only 3 guys ever entered the ring I felt that wanted to beat him. The first Ali, as my book says, trilogies. So the first Ali, Durant at 135, and Sugar Ray Robertson.
You're seeing Vukosa with some of that movement. Eats a right hand there from Cusumano. But doesn't really stay in the line of danger too much, and that's really been what's kept him upright most of his career. And as I mentioned, Vukosa did train with Freddie Roach early in his career. A knee injury sidelined him for more than a decade. He was seemingly out of the sport. Came back in 2014, and he upset Jason Estrada, the former Olympian, in Massachusetts, one of the bigger upsets, like we mentioned, in New England in quite some time.
You know, having my buddy Freddie Roach as a trainer, that's definitely an asset.
Now, we thought Cusumano, or rather Vukosa, was retired for good. He made an appearance on the Boxino tournament against Donovan Dennis. Did not survive that fight, and at that time had walked away. He has a full-time job as a bus driver for the MBTA. A nice career, but there's that bug, right, Doc, that always keeps guys in it and always keeps guys active, that thirst to keep coming back and see if he got something in the tank. And Vukosa came back in July. He scored a win over Justin Rolfe in New Hampshire. And here he is now taking on what may be the biggest challenge of his career at this point against Giuseppe Cusumano. We mentioned Cusumano's recent hot streak, 3 in a row, 16 out of 17. And 16 of his 18 fights, or 18 wins rather, have ended by knockout. So Cusumano is someone who does know how to close the show.
Well, you know, you talk about a bug. Hey, he's in that ring tonight. There's no bug. That's something that he loves to do. And I think people have the propensity to not realize that all these athletes in every sport, they love what they do.
It's never easy to walk away, right?
No, Larry Holmes told me something I'll never forget. It's hard to stop doing the best thing you do in life, and people are going to pay you for it.
10 seconds to go here in this opening round. Vukosa showing off some of that elusiveness that we talked about earlier in the fight.
And a quick first round, too.
Cusumano really trying to track him down, just buying his time. Cusumano really, as this round comes to a close, is more of the heavy-handed of the two. That's naturally the case, and all you have to do is look at the number of knockouts to determine that. Doesn't move quite as well as Vukosa, or maybe not as well as Vukosa moved early in his career.
Well, even with that, him being an older guy, he's quicker. You know, the speed and looseness is part of being a southpaw. You know, and just heavyweights, you know, Ali and Jesse Charles and Jimmy Ellis and Larry Holmes, they ruined the misconception of the big guy. They could box. They could box, you know, and even in at this advanced age of his stage, he showed some boxing ability that round.
Yeah, you see it there, right? It's something that doesn't go away, that ability, right? That natural instinct, the way to get out of trouble, the way to fight.
He's a thoroughbred. He's always going to be an Arabian. He's always going to be a quarter horse.
That's right.
That's what he is.
He's done it his entire life, and I think some of those skills really don't erode over time. Maybe the reflexes and maybe the instincts do, but the true talent doesn't go away, and Vukosa showed that in that first round. Very awkward style, something that Cusumano is going to have to adjust to, and we'll see how he makes those adjustments. Now, Cusumano fought a southpaw in Bernardo Marquez 2 years ago here at Twin River and had all sorts of trouble in that fight and was losing on the cards until he got the stoppage midway through. And again, you talk about important lessons, right? You learn them in losing, but sometimes you learn them when you win too, if you have to dig deep to get the knockout like he did that night. And it taught him a lesson about how to approach southpaws. So we'll see going forward as this fight progresses if he's learned those lessons from that last fight and his ability to handle southpaw fighters. And they are awkward, right? I mean, they are definitely awkward.
Southpaws are, and you're not used to fighting him. And more importantly, has his corner instilled doing training. Has his corner remembered that so they can say, hey, it comes down in the third round, just what you got to do. That's what the corner is about. It's about the ability to see what you have to do and knowing you have the ability to do it.
Cusumano trying to get inside there and not let Vukosa use distance to his advantage,
which is a minor victory already for him. Now it's about the adjustment.
You see that movement, though. Vukosa does get out of the way of some of these shots and tries to land with the left of his own right to the sternum.
It's been impressive this very little bit of time you've seen him. For a guy 42 years old, hasn't fought that long. As far as his abilities and skills, it's like that line from Helsinki, master, it's what I do.
Vukosa was also an accomplished amateur before turning pro and then getting involved with Freddie Roach, a wild card. And for Freddie Roach to work with someone, it has to be a talented fighter.
In the conversation.
Right.
You might go on the money in the conversation. One of the great trainers, one of the great human beings of our society, my buddy Freddie.
Nice job there with that left hand by Vukosa. Get out of the way of the right on the way out. So you're seeing that head movement that we talked about.
You know, what a problem he really would be if he was younger.
Well, in his time, you know, he really rose through the ranks when he first started out. Unfortunately for him, that knee injury really set him aside. And I'm sure frustration probably set in there. Cusumano actually ate a shot on the way in there. That was a nice job at Vukosa. And you know what? Cusumano right now is having a hard time catching him.
He hasn't caught him yet. And you have to understand, like I said,
30 seconds to go. And I think, you know, Doc, I think that the key here for Cusumano is cutting the ring off. You can't let Vukosa just circle
glide
the way
around,
he is. Right.
Give you those angles. And maybe tire you out, too.
That's a sign of maturity in a fighter to be able to do that. And those are the skills that Cusumano will need if he wants to move forward in this division. Because like we said, the time is now for heavyweights not only to challenge for fights, but to make some pretty good money in this weight class.
On any given night, ask Joshua what can happen.
Vukosa lunging in with that left. Round 2 in the books here of a scheduled 8. Steve Vukosa doing a nice job, and Cusumano right now just trying to chase him around that ring and catch him. It's been tough sledding thus far. Michael Parenti joined by Doc Stanley. We are live from Twin River Casino Hotel. Right now you're watching the main event for the vacant WBC US NBC heavyweight title. Giuseppe Cusumano, who owns the NBA belt, taking on the challenger, Steve Vukosa, in the purple and gold. You see Vukosa's corner there, Chris Trieti, and Ted Panagiotis, the longtime cut man, longtime CES matchmaker as well. Teddy Panagiotis got his start as a teen and worked his way up and matched some of the great fights in New England history. So you're dealing with a real mastermind right there in Teddy Panagiotis. One of the best cut men in the business by far. I've seen him close some cuts that I think, you know, steel couldn't close. You couldn't hammer those close with nuts and bolts and you know, in Flex Seal. You know, he just does a great job there.
Brought the fight fan into the corner and make an acknowledgement of how important the cut man is.
It's important that just the team you have in there can be so important as you get into these later rounds too in this fight, what kind of advice you're going to get and really how you're going to move forward here. So Cusumano trying to open it up with a big hook there to start round number 3. 3 rounds of a scheduled 8 here in our main event. And Cusumano just buying his time. I think that the stigma now with Cusumano is that people are just waiting for the knockout. You know, he's had so many in his career.
Yeah.
16 out of 18 wins that people almost expect it, and you almost get a little deflated if you don't see it, and you wonder, you know.
It's like going to the game and Mays and the Magic go 4 for 4, but they don't hit a home run.
Right. And sometimes you got to remember the little things lead to those big moments. And Cusumano has been mastering that over the course of his career as it progresses, doing the little things that are going to lead to it. It's not just about trying to tee somebody up for that big shot.
WIN, that's all.
Right. Win the fight and also just break down the opponent. And that's what Cusumano has done a much better job of more recently in these last few fights.
You know, you're talking about breaking down an opponent. Who did it more efficiently, redundantly than Rocky Marciano?
That's right. That's right. 49-0. You know, Cusumano in his last fight with Brendan Barrett, it was a very awkward fight that more or less turned into a wrestling match with the shorter Barrett really charging in and just trying to close that gap that we've talked about throughout the night. And Cusumano actually got knocked down in that fight and was hurt when he got up. It certainly wasn't a flash knockdown, and he had to really dig deep and fight his way back, which he eventually did. Now Cusumano has cornered Vukosa.
Finally, you know, he's had to hit him 3-4 times in a row all night long. Now
it's the best. Yeah, it's the best flurry Cusumano's had the entire fight.
And the closest he's had him to him the entire fight. No longer in the center of the ring. Missed a good uppercut.
You're right. You really want to back him up against those ropes and make your opponent run out of real estate where you just can't back up anymore. And now this becomes a case of whether Cusumano can just keep cutting off the ring like this and getting Vukosa into that corner where he can do some damage. And Cusumano goes down. Vukosa lands and Cusumano goes down.
Should I say Dixon again? Should I say Dixon again?
Cusumano's upset here. I think he thinks it was a slip, but that's no slip.
Well,
look, it's important here to keep your composure if you're Cusumano.
We'll review it.
And here comes Vukosa.
Oh, my goodness.
Vukosa going for the kill with 30 seconds to go.
Oh, my goodness. Who is the matchmaker here? Who is the matchmaker? Oh, my
Cusumano's in trouble against the ropes here. He's got to clinch or hold and get to the stool for this end of this round.
Well, let's see. He's got a good 10 seconds left. A good 10 seconds left.
Vukosa drops Cusumano, and now unloading.
He wants to drop him again.
And look,
I think he's one punch away from doing it again. But
the bell rings and Cusumano a little wobbly going back to his corner.
A little wobbly, Mike. You're really kind here with these words. A little wobbly.
I'll tell you something. This crowd on its feet here, not expecting this output from Steve Vukosa, who lands and connects and sends Cusumano to the canvas.
I'm going to say this, Mike. Any card you put together, expect the unexpected.
Fireworks. Expect the unexpected, whether it's heavyweights or not. Let's take a look here at just how this went down here. So you see Vukosa pawing, and he lands a right hook.
Right.
Not even the left. And look at Vukosa, almost stunned for a second at the output of that. He lands the right cross right to the chin. Cusumano, I'm not sure what the complaint is there from Cusumano. I mean, that's as clean a knockdown as you get. No, there's no slippage there. That's a clean knockdown.
The only slippage he slipped that right hand inside his head. That's all.
Cusumano probably fortunate that he ran out of time there in the end of that round. He was starting to take some shots. And I think once Vukosa saw that Cusumano was a little wobbly, he went in for the kill there and really was as aggressive as we've seen him at any point in this fight.
Hold on, wait a minute here. What's happening here?
Doctor now coming into the ring here.
What's happening? Is there a cut here? Did he get cut?
It appears ringside physician Dr. de Blasio checking out a cut.
Oh, my goodness. This has been more devastating than we thought. I think it is a cut.
It's pretty wild action here in our main event. Vukosa and Cusumano. Cusumano in the black and gold. Vukosa in the purple and yellow. And in what has been an interesting and perhaps unexpected development, Steve Vukosa sends Cusumano to the canvas in round number 3 and now has the upper hand in this fight. He's now in the driver's seat, and it's up to Cusumano to try to fight back, stem the tide, and turn the momentum in his favor. We'll see if he has it in him. as I mentioned in his last fight, Cusumano hit the canvas in that one as well and came back and got the stoppage in round 7. But I think this time, this is a little bit of a different story, facing more of a seasoned fighter, a veteran like Vukosa, as opposed to Brendan Barrett, who did not have as extensive a boxing background. So,
but Vukosa, too, cannot get too lax. He can't get back into letting him be the aggressor again, him going back on defense. He's got to show some offense here somewhere along the line.
Cusumano lands a big right hand, and I agree with you too, Doc, because Cusumano won those first 2 rounds. He was the aggressor. He was the better boxer. And if Cusumano just can slip back into that mentality, he can win the fight.
Yes.
Vukosa may have to be the one that goes for the knockout, and he's not the power puncher among the two, which is what's more surprising.
Pete Rose hit a home run here.
That's right. The singles hitter goes deep.
Lodgie Smith winning that playoff series there. Go crazy, folks, go crazy.
I remember that call. The walk-off home run in the NLCS.
Yeah.
We'll see if Vukosa has the walk-off potential tonight here and can capture the USNBC title, or can Cusumano regain his composure and retake control of the fight?
Right now, it seems he's en route to doing that.
And you got to wonder, Doc, too, from a mental standpoint, is Cusumano going to get overly aggressive now? Do you get mad when you get knocked down? Do you try to go for the big shot? He doesn't necessarily need it, but here he is now unloading of it.
Yeah.
Vukosa's now a little bit wobbly.
Yeah.
And here comes Cusumano.
But like you said, be careful. He may run into that right hand again.
And who saw the right coming from Vukosa, who is a natural southpaw? And maybe that's the point, right?
He probably thought, did I do it right-handed? What I'm doing?
Vukosa lands a left hand.
Now he's using the right hand to hit him with. This has been a very good fight here.
This has been great action in this heavyweight main event. We are almost halfway through, just under a minute to go here. Cusumano had a little bit of a flurry there, and Vukosa kind of stumbled toward the ropes, but then I thought he kind of let his foot off the gas a little bit.
Yeah, he did.
And allowed Vukosa to get his footing back, and then he cracked him with the left on the way out. So I think if you're a Cusumano and you smell blood, you got to go in there and be aggressive.
Yeah. Because this is going to be a very interesting round.
Big overhand right, I think just kind of grazed the top of Vukosa's head there.
How this round is scored.
It's a close round. I think, I think they both had some moments here.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of sandwiched around some inactivity for the most part.
This third one there.
But I think Cusumano is looked sharper, works the body there.
Yes, no question about it. He's sharper.
Appears to have shaken off the knockdown in the 3rd round. So 4 in the books. We are halfway through this main event for the USNBC title. And I'll tell you, I'm not sure many people thought Vukosa would get this far. But here he is, 42 years of age. He's halfway to the finish line. And he scored the knockdown in this fight. I'll tell you, this is, you talk about the theater of the absurd sometimes and expecting the unexpected.
Expect the unexpected.
That's what it's all about.
Some other earlier fights, Victor Reynoso, impressive. And going up 5-0 with a TKO display of Kenny Cherry, Lamont Powell, Nicholas Briggs, both guys 4-0, up their records to 5-0. Vinci Dixon, can't say enough. Comes back and wins, coming at 8-23, a knockout win. Michael Valentin remains undefeated against Lonnie Jackson.
Against disputed draw against Lonnie, and I think both sides surprisingly disputed the decision in that fight. Both sides felt they won.
Both arenas. Wow.
All right, round 5 underway. Michael Parenti joined by Doc Stanley, live from Twin River Casino Hotel in our heavyweight main event. Giuseppe Cusumano in the gold and black trunks taking on Steve Vukosa, the gentle giant, in the purple and yellow. We are halfway through this one. Vukosa scored a knockdown in round number 3. Cusumano appears to have regained his footing and both his composure in the meantime, but I think does have to pick up some of the pace here.
But you notice
Vukosa lands again there.
Giant is actually become the aggressor.
He sure has, and I think that knockdown probably a big confidence boost for him, right? Those first 2 rounds were tough for him. It looked like he was just sort of holding on and trying to feel him out a little bit and establish a pace, and then he scores the big knockdown that really nobody saw coming. Now here comes Cusumano unloading with some left and rights, but Vukosa again elusive. And I think one thing too, we talk about Vukosa being a veteran, really knows when to wrap up and clinch.
Exactly. Which was the downfall of Tommy Hearns against Ray Leonard, their first fight.
Cusumano backed against the ropes here, 1 minute into round number 5. Eddie Claudio breaking him up.
Tremendous job by the referees tonight. Tremendous job.
It's been very good officiating from start to finish tonight.
Right.
They've most importantly, kept the bouts under control, which sometimes can be a lost art in this sport.
Man. They were there, and yet you didn't know they were there.
That's right. It's like being an offensive lineman, right? If they don't mention your name, then you did your job.
Yeah, that's right.
Nice stiff jab there by Cusumano. Follows with the overhand right. And then Vukosa comes back with the left hand. Vukosa still landing, lands again.
No, the aggression that he's showing now reminds me of, once again, Leonard Hearns, where the first part of the fight raised on the run and then turns around and he becomes the aggressor.
I think a lot of people, and maybe Vukosa himself, did not know what to expect, being that this is only his second fight in 5 years, going against a guy who's been active, who's been more active.
And
but now after that second round, now I think he feels good. He feels comfortable in there.
Mike, he saw it when he landed that right. He said, oh, my goodness. He landed that right hand. He may be losing around, but he's become the aggressor. Oh, right there.
35 seconds to go. Vukosa lands a couple of shots as Cusumano tries to stalk him down. It's been a bit frustrating for Cusumano.
Yeah.
At least in intervals.
It's going to be interesting to see if we go another round or two, does stamina become a big factor in this?
That's a very good point. Vukosa's 42. He's had one fight in 5 years. You would think as the later rounds, or as you get into the later rounds, that Cusumano would have the edge there. But again, you just don't know what to. I think I've thrown all conventional wisdom.
It's your card. Unexpected, unexpected.
I've thrown all the wisdom out the window in this fight. I'll tell you what, we are now 5 rounds through this main event, scheduled for 8. Giuseppe Cusumano taking on Steve Vukosa, who has more than held his own in this fight.
He dropped him.
Take a look at some of the replays here. This is midway through. Vukosa to the body. And you see Cusumano just trying to stalk him down, just trying to charge into that corner.
He even bait him a little bit. Boom. Woo.
Look at that left. That shot. Quick left hand by Vukosa.
He just missed
glanced him with that other one there.
Yes, he sure did.
You know, Cusumano's trying to be aggressive, but as we've said throughout the night, you pay the price sometimes for that aggression.
What fight did we see it all night long? He kept taking it, go back to it, and then before you know it, boom.
And I'll be honest, I don't know what to expect over these final 3 rounds, but it's going to be exciting nonetheless. I just can't wait to see how this one finishes out, how this story ends here. Cusumano going for the WBC USNBC title. The same for Steve Vukosa. A lot on the line for both fighters. We know what the heavyweight division looks like right now, and the opportunities that await someone who can string together a few wins and run his record up.
Louis showed you that.
The money's there and the opportunities are there. Cusumano now coming out aggressive here in round 6. Think perhaps we may see an attempt to pick up the pace a little bit.
Yeah, but I'm thinking the Cusumano may mess around and tie himself out, kind of going out of character. You talked about the constant pounding and chopping down that tree, which
nice stiff jab by Vukosa. Followed with
this against Andoha. It's going to be interesting if this goes as this is now. It's going to be interesting.
I'll tell you what, Vukosa's landing and then he's getting out of the way, and he's avoiding most of what Cusumano is throwing at him over this last round or so.
Isn't it amazing that he's become defensive?
I feel like the 4th round, Cusumano looked a lot sharper. 5th round, I'm on the fence about. But I feel like Vukosa's starting to turn a little corner and maybe get a second win here.
Yeah, good point.
And we weren't really sure if we'd expect that from someone who just hasn't been as active at this stage in his career.
Yeah.
We wondered about the cardio and the conditioning, and I was...
I tell you, he looks, for a guy that hasn't fought, he looks outstanding.
Vukosa again lands a left hand. You see the sweat just flying off of Cusumano's forehead. This has not been a good round for Cusumano, but a lot of time to turn the tide.
Yeah.
And we'll see if he can mount some offense here. And you wonder if perhaps is he looking for the big shot, if he's looking for that home run. It's hard to say really what's going on in that corner, but I'm sure his head trainer Marcus Luck is telling him to be patient and to not
go back to doing what you did rounds.
Do what you did in the early rounds, right? 3 out of the first 4 rounds really is where he looked his best. And you're right, he does have to get back to that.
But you know what happens, Mike, you tell them what to do, and them doing it is another thing.
Absolutely. Can lead the horse to water, right? Which you can't force him to drink.
Yes, he's looking for a beer instead of water.
Michael Parenti joined by Doc Stanley. We are live on Facebook, live from Twin River Casino Hotel. Steve Vukosa lands another left, just sort of poking through the defense of Giuseppe Cusumano.
I'm thinking, man, where's the right hand? You dropped him, put it right hand, you hit him with that.
The southpaw who earlier dropped Cusumano with the right hand, now you working that southpaw style. And again, he's just so elusive. Cusumano really just flat-footed at times in this fight and is really unable to catch him. Vukosa's looked a lot better than people, I think, thought coming into this fight. Really giving Cusumano all he can handle and more than that,
And some more.
especially when you factor in the knockdowns.
Oh, that knockdown was something. And if he had another 20 seconds, this fight might have been over by now.
I agree on that one. Cusumano has at times, as you see right here, he's backed Vukosa into the ropes, but just isn't able to do anything with it.
It makes me wonder if he's tired. Has fatigue set in there? And
It looks like it may have.
we're looking for the older guy to be tired, and he doesn't look tired. He's still and the thing about Cusumano is that he's maintained his pace. He hasn't changed the pace the way he's fought this fight. He hasn't went faster. He hasn't went slower. He's maintained 55 miles an hour.
But the replays here from round number 6. Look at that double left hand. Vukosa came in with two back-to-back lefts, just straight lefts, and he caught him flush with that second one. And I think Cusumano's just frustrated. I think frustration's starting to set in a little bit, which would certainly be a factor. And that can kind of derail you from your strategy. Sometimes you just get away from the game plan of what's working.
You put this frustration in, you throw the fatigue, you're not listening to your corner, anything can happen.
Well, Vukosa has 2 more rounds to go here to see if he could possibly pull off the upset. Can Cusumano stem the tide and capture the USNBC belt? 6 more minutes to go. We are in round number 7 of a scheduled 8. Vukosa comes out with a nice 2-punch combo.
This round is big. This round is big for the southpaw.
Giuseppe trying to work that jab, following up with the right hand. Michael Parenti once again joined by Doc Stanley ringside. And Vukosa again sneaks in that left. To his credit, Cusumano's walking through him, but those are point scores. And in a fight like this, that's close. Every one of those matters. Another left hand for Vukosa.
Like you said, Mike, they're chopping down that tree. Boom.
And another left. That's 3 by Vukosa.
That seems to be the most devastating when he's thrown all night, too.
Vukosa's found his comfort zone. He misses with that left hand, but Cusumano has to pick up the pace here. He's not seeing that right hand. It's become the weapon of choice now for Steve Vukosa. And he tries to go to that well again. 2 minutes to go here in round 7.
Of a round right now that belongs to Vukosa.
This one early on, absolutely. Vukosa lands 3 hard lefts to start this round. Cusumano just not able to mount the offense.
Another one.
There's another left. You got to wonder when Cusumano's going to let the hands go and pick up the pace here, if at all.
Saying the same thing.
And you can hear Marcus Luck from where we're sitting, Giuseppe Cusumano's trainer, just imploring him to get something going here. But Vukosa, as advertised, is elusive, slick. We've seen all those elements tonight in this fight.
And
another left hand.
Oh, my goodness.
That's 5 clean lefts that I've counted just off the top of my head here in this round for Vukosa, who's suddenly starting to find the comfort zone.
Yeah, and again is the aggressor.
1 minute left in round number 7. Michael Parenti joined by Doc Stanley.
Boom.
I want to thank our sponsor, Timeless CBD, for tonight's stream. Make sure you follow them on Facebook at Timeless CBD and on Instagram at Timeless_CBD. We are live on Facebook in our main event. A little more than a round to go here. And now you start to count in your head, and you wonder how the points play out. Did Cusumano do enough in the early rounds? Does he I think, may need round number 8 to possibly take this fight. And then knockdown score is big for Vukosa in the 3rd round. So
here's your classic line, too, Mike. Here's your classic line. The judges.
And it all comes down, and it may very well come down to the judges. It's Cusumano not used to going the distance. Usually has finished opponents, more swiftly before that.
Mike, you brought up a point now. That being the case, we're talking about a psychological effect, too.
Of his 18 wins, 16 have come by knockout for Cusumano, and it's going to be tough sledding to get the KO in this one now. We have 1 round to go. Vukosa aside from the third round, that's his best round.
Man, yeah.
He looked sharp. He was that left hand was like a trigger, just over the top, landing at least 5 times clean on Cusumano, not inflicting damage. It's not to the point where, but it's scoring, and it's just all important points in a fight that's this close.
We may not know how much damage it has inflicted.
Right.
You know, looking at it like it hasn't done so doesn't mean it hasn't done so.
You got to wonder now what these scorecards might look like, Don. I'm not sure. I don't envy these judges who have to piece all this together if, in fact, it does go the distance. And I wonder if Cusumano's corner, if I'm Cusumano's corner, I go in there with the mentality that you need the knockout. I think there's no doubt. You got to be aggressive. You can't take your foot off the pedal. You got to fight this last round in these final 3 minutes.
Both corners are saying that.
Yes, you're probably right? Because you just don't know.
Yeah.
Here it is, round number 8 of our main event.
Oh, man, what a way to
Cusumano coming out
boxing.
aggressive. Yeah, this has been fantastic. This is how you cap it off here.
Night to end a great night of boxing here. What a card.
Cusumano trying to.
I think Cusumano may be tired.
I agree.
I think if
we'll see if there's enough in that tank for just these final 2.5 minutes. You got to let it all out here.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, I'll be honest, the punches that Cusumano's thrown in the last 2 rounds, I just don't see a lot of zip on him. And I think that's where that fatigue is setting in. There's just nothing behind. Yeah. We're used to seeing Cusumano plant that lead foot.
We're used to not seeing him here.
No, and certainly not seeing in these late rounds, too, is also a factor.
Like you said, the fight is usually over by now.
This has been a very interesting development here at Twin River, and be very interesting to see what the scorecards hold in store. Cusumano in the gold and black. And I think Vukosa may have taken a shot there. It was a little wild, but you see Cusumano's corner urge him to pick up the pace here.
Well, see, I don't know if that's because of a shot
or just the time.
Fatigue.
Yeah,
you know,
the fatigue and the time,
And the angles that he has as a southpaw is kind of off balance at certain times. Or looks awkward.
It's at least been a better round for Cusumano than the 7th, which just was not
lopsided.
Was very lopsided in favor of Vukosa. Vukosa feigning that left hand, that big overhand left. Cusumano working the body a little bit. But just not able to, just not let those combinations go. We just haven't seen a lot of it in these later rounds.
Could there be maybe an injury here?
It'd be interesting to see in the aftermath of what happens here and what fallout there might be from this fight. But right now, Vukosa, I think, exceeding a lot of expectations. You see the corner telling Cusumano to move in on him. But every time he tries, he eats a left hand, and that's just been the biggest problem is that distance finder, if you will, for Vukosa. It's like throwing up a stop sign.
It's like a catch-22 here. You'd like to see the fight go the distance, but you wouldn't mind it not.
Not at all. 1 minute to go. We'll see what both fighters have left in the tank here.
It's time to let it go.
Can Vukosa pull off the upset, or will Cusumano earn the victory on the scorecards?
Keep his streak going and keep his belt. We've got a good half minute here, gentlemen.
This one's been exciting. It has been ebbs and flows, right? Highs and lows on both sides, and in the end, we're more than likely
ending to an outstanding card.
Yeah, more than likely going to the cards here in these final 20 seconds. And I'm willing to bet not a lot of people thought Vukosa would get through 8 rounds in this one. So, and he lands another left there, and now Cusumano lands. Final 10 seconds here.
Come on, that's the way, gentlemen.
Everybody letting it all out. Fight is over. This one goes the distance. And I'll tell you, it's going to be interesting to see what happens here on the scorecards.
You know what? Even with a loss, Steve has won. To go
I agree.
The distance, to have a knockdown, Steve has won. There's no loser here, especially if it's him on the short end of the card.
To come out of retirement not too many, just a month ago, 5 years out of retirement, Steve Vukosa at the age of 42 comes in here and goes 8 rounds with Giuseppe Cusumano and very well may have won the fight. So we're taking a look at round number 3. We're going to go back to the knockdown. You see Cusumano really confident, aggressive. And it was the final minute right here, right? These final 50 seconds. You see Vukosa kind of buying his time.
Bam,
and there's the right hand.
There's the right hand.
As Cusumano leaned in, and Cusumano goes down like a ton of bricks.
Looked like he almost went out the ropes.
And some of the action here from round number 4. And Cusumano had a better round here. I thought more aggressive in the 4th. You see him there with some combinations.
Yeah,
there he is now, letting 4, 5, 6 punch combos go. He had Vukosa a little bit wobbly. And then right here at that 110 mark, kind of took the foot off the gas. And here's that 5th round. I thought Cusumano again did a decent job charging in, but that's when Vukosa started to pick up the timing on that left hand, right?
Yeah,
you see a little bit of it here in round 6, right?
Will.
Same thing here. And then we go to this is the final minute here of round number 8. But that 7th round, really, aside from the 3rd, was Vukosa's best.
No question.
And you just wonder in the middle how many rounds he might have won. And it's just going to be very interesting to see how this goes. I think Vukosa got off to a slow start. And will that hurt him in the end, or perhaps did he do enough in the end in those final maybe 4 or 5? We're going to find out here. I think we're all awaiting the decision here. This one's going to be interesting. We're going to send it up to our ring announcer, Adam Plazio.
Ladies and gentlemen, after 8 tough rounds, we go to the scorecards. Judge Martha Tremblay scored the fight 76-75. Judge Steve Smoger scored the fight 77-74. Judge Eddie Scunzio scored the fight 76-75 for your winner by unanimous decision and new WBC champion, Steve
Vukosa gets the W. Tremendous upset here at Twin River Casino in our main event. Vukosa shocks everybody in attendance with the unanimous decision victory. A razor-thin fight, and look at these two scores, 76-75, 76-75. That knockdown was the difference. Let's hear from Steve Vukosa.
You got to answer to the people now. You got a large contingent here screaming your name. Few words for the crowd. Congratulations, first of all.
Thank you. You know, I've been married for 15
knockdown
years
and coming
I got
back
3
in round
kids.
7.
So I got a lot of rage built up inside me. And, you know, it's a great time just to let it out. So I want to thank everybody for coming out, for supporting me. I want to thank Joe. And just, I love all you guys.
What a card.
Thank you. Thank you.
Steve, congratulations, man. You earned it tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, the new WBC USA NBC champion, Steve Vukosa.
So Steve Vukosa gets it done. He is your WBC US NBC heavyweight champion in a fight that maybe not a lot of people expected. But what a finish. This is what we talked about. Don, you and I said it coming into this, right? Expect the unexpected. Upsets in the heavyweight division have been going on for quite some time now.
That really won the fight for him was the right hand, not his left hand.
Absolutely. That right hand and that knockdown in the 3rd round was the difference on the scorecards. Martha Tremblay and Eddie Scunzio both had it 76-75. Steve Smoger had a bit of a wider margin, but those two 1-point scorecards, that's where that 10-8 round comes into play, and that's what earned the victory for Steve Vukosa tonight.
Even with the wider margin, the knockdown was enough to bring him back, even though figure he lost to 77-74, but it was enough to bring him back and keep him within the mix.
And sometimes you need that one shot, that one knockdown to sort of stem the tide from a slow start.
Field goals, right. Touchdown.
That's absolutely right. Yeah, holding the field goals, and then you score on the other end.
Right.
And that's what kind of Vukosa did. He held Cusumano to those field goals, and he scores that big touchdown in round 3. What a night of action. So we're going to wrap this up real quickly. We had 9 pro bouts. I'm not sure what stood out to me the most. I'm still processing. Doc, I ask you, your big takeaway from tonight.
I just you know, this is the type of boxing, this type of card that boxing needs to keep going, to keep the fight. Once again, taking the hats off to you, but the kind of card, I mean, it wasn't a bad fight on the card.
No.
Look at the crowd. And then the endings that you had, this here, the 42-year-old man winning, okay, then we had no surprise with the surgeon. Just a massive display, but the opponent being there still.
Yes.
You know, and then you just can't say enough. And then
no, I agree with you. I think Ortiz's performance was the most technical.
No question.
Hence why they call him the technician. Probably the most complete performance of the night by anybody on the card. But, of course, I go back to Vinci Dixon coming in off a big knockout win in Philly, and then he scores another upset tonight against the hometown favorite. And Elijah Pecho on the undercard, a fight that we did not televise, but putting on a clinic against 2-0 Carlos Otero.
Yes, yes.
We saw a little bit of the unexpected tonight. I don't think a lot of people saw a lot of these fights going this way, but that's the beauty of boxing, and that's the beauty of bringing this sport here to Twin River Casino. I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. I want to remind all of our fans that we are back again for hard-hitting MMA action on September 7th on UFC Fight Pass, and then we're right back here November 23rd for live professional boxing at Twin River Casino Hotel. It's been a great night of action. Doc, I thank you for joining me and making the trip out here. I had a pleasure sitting ringside, soaking up the wisdom. This has been a great night. Hopefully we'll see you again, and we hope you all join us again soon. Signing off from Twin River, Michael Parenti, Doc Stanley. Have a great night.